under a bridge. Oh my God, I thought. Where am I going to sleep tonight? What is going to happen to me? What am I going to eat? I cried out to God. With no money and 3 days left until the end of the month when I received a monthly student allowance, I had no solution to my situation. It threatened every aspect of my life, including my university education, in which I had invested my heart and mind from a very young age. I had always desired to become an educated man for as long as I remember. I knew that a life of disadvantage could prevent me from going to college. Knowing this drove me to work hard at my studies and to save money. I was also eager to win the favor of my father. I wanted to assure him that because of my education, I would never be a burden to him financially. It was my dream to graduate, find a job, and help my family overcome poverty. Everybody in my hometown knew that I was a hard worker and zealous to become an educated man. It was well known that I was working hard to pursue my future dreams, and I was willing to endure a good measure of hardship to achieve my goals. Some parents thought of me as a role model for their children, even though many of them were still amazed that I was accepted into the university. Now I would be denied the opportunity to complete what I had started because of the situation that had befallen me with the lies of my landlord's daughter. The failure to complete my education would make me lose face and dishonor my family in Telesh. My mind was racing with so many different thoughts and questions, and I didn't know what to do. Should I call my family and let them know so they could sell everything they had and send the money to me? How could I tell any of this to my father, who never showed any interest in my education apart from what might bring him personal gain? He would make life hell for my mother and any of my family members who had encouraged my pursuit of an education. I believed that an education would open up political and social doors for me in Iranian society. I could acquire respectability that country boys seldom enjoy. The sudden setback would be a major defeat for my political goals. My poverty would hinder my progress. As a student in Telesh, it was always my desire to see the success of all less privileged students in the country. I had many friends who were not able to study, and only one of my 11 siblings was able to complete school through the 9th grade. It was heartbreaking to me that the country was led only by wealthy autocrats. And it wasn't merely that the country was run by the rich, but their attitudes towards rural citizens was one bent on degradation and humiliation. These political and social pressures enslaved my people. I labored under the belief that education was the key to demolishing such injustices, and it could lead the less privileged class to political positions that would allow them to have a voice in their own country. Education was the great equalizer, or so I thought. As I tried to sort out all the thoughts running through my head, I made my way to a bridge in Tehran called the Bridge of Hafez. I felt very tired and needed to sit for a few moments, and the only quiet place I could find was under the bridge. I found a spot under one of the beams, sat on an old newspaper, leaned on the beam, and tried to rest. The decisions I faced were not easy to think about, and I was unsure of how I could build the courage to act. I was filled with shame and so afraid that someone would see me sitting under the bridge like the homeless man I was. After a while, I began to feel hungry. I tried to ignore my stomach, but the pangs wouldn't let me rest. Suddenly, I remembered that I had a piece of bread in my pocket. Before the landlord's wife kicked me out of the house, I knew that I had 180 rials, and I would be able to survive on that until I received my monthly student stipend. But in that moment, when I was frantically gathering my belongings to leave, I realized that my problem was bigger than the 180 rials in my pocket. I retrieved a piece of bread that I had discarded in the small rubbish bin in my room. I couldn't have known that the bread that had meant so little to me that morning would become both my lunch and my dinner on the very same day. And if I didn't find a way out of my situation quickly, it might also be the last piece of bread I would eat for a very long time. The bitterness of homelessness and my hunger were wounding my heart so deeply. I started to complain to God. "Where are you, God? For years I've spoken to you. I always thought you were the only one who could help me. How many times do I have to call on you? Should I call to you again? Who else is going to help me if you are the sovereign God?" The hopelessness in my heart was overwhelming. "Oh, Tehran," I said, "you do not know what friendship is." A favorite saying in Iran is, who is who in Tehran? The dogs do not know their masters. The pain of loss and uncertainty was heavy, so I bowed my head to rest. I tried to lie down, but the concrete was not smooth. I stood and saw a corner under the bridge where some boxes were spread. I walked over and could see that someone had already slept there. I was too tired to think anymore, so I laid myself down and slept. I couldn't tell how long I had slept because I didn't have a watch. It was ironic to consider that I could not even make a home there on the cardboard box where I had slept because it was already someone else's home. I looked around and there was plenty of space, but deep inside, I was concerned for my safety. It never occurred to me, even as I stood there a homeless man, that not all homeless people are drunks and addicts.